Now, youth clubs can be a lifeline for young people, giving them confidence, teaching them valuable life skills. But a new report is warning those spaces are under threat following cuts to funding. The charity, the YMCA, says the number of local authority-run youth centres in England has more than halved since 2011. Just over a decade ago, there were 917. Well, that number now is just 427. That represents a real terms drop in spending on youth centres in England of 73%. Meanwhile, the number of full-time youth workers employed by local authorities has fallen by more than a third. Well, young people near Glossop in Derbyshire face losing their youth and boxing club after the county council announced it can no longer afford to keep it open. John Maguire has been to meet those trying to save it.
Twice a week, every week, children can come here to the community centre on the Gamesley estate near Glossop and learn to box, to bake and tonight to make banners. That's because the building's threatened with closure. Helen Thornhill runs the Hangout Club.
So Helen, what does this place mean to people?
It's a lifeline really for the young people that come. It's a safe space. It's a place where they can come and meet their friends, be sociable, get out of the house, be active. They're talking to each other, they're talking to the adults, they hold really good conversations, but they're allowed to be themselves. So they're not on the street, they're not getting moved on by the PCSOs. Really, they just want to be sociable, don't they? They just want to be with their mates.
There's a night for teenagers and a night for younger ones. 11-year-old Mia tells me it's essential for local children.
This wasn't here, everyone was bored, getting upset and worried and things. But when this came along, everyone was happy, smiling, not confused, not angry.
Dawn volunteers here and loves it. She says the relationships formed benefit the whole estate.
For the young ones, it's the heart of the community. You know, where else can they go? They come here to talk to us, they come here to learn to cook. You know, some kids have never made a sandwich before, come here and make a sandwich to meet up, and they're getting to know us adults. You know, they might not have a trusted adult in their life. We might be their only trusted adult. So it means a lot.
The club is under threat not because of any cut to youth services, but because the community centre's owner, Derbyshire County Council, wants to close the building. In a statement, it says, "We're continuing to review the various options and are in discussions with interested groups in case we can find a way to keep the building open." The volunteers have launched a crowdfunding site in an attempt to save the club. Matt does the sport here. He's lived on the estate his whole life and also runs a mental health group for adults. The LETS stands for Listen, Exercise, Talk and Support. He's concerned about the children's future.
They're young, they need to be active, they need to be doing things instead of being sat in their house. Otherwise, I'm going to end up seeing them at my mental health group, what I run in Glossop. I think myself I will see them at the mental health group in the next 5 years or so, if they don't keep it open, yeah, because they've got nothing else. And I think the mental health will go downhill massively.
They also run activities during the school holidays for those most in need. For the government's part, it says £1.6 billion of funding and the National Youth Guarantee aims, in England, to ensure that by 2025, every young person will have access to regular clubs and activities, adventures away from home and opportunities to volunteer. It's the adult volunteers that keep this place going for the benefit of the children.
I come here every week because you can do boxing here and you can, in there, alright, what you can do is you can do cooking if you want, which is good for in high school, isn't it? You can do pool, you can sometimes do footy outside, yeah, and you can buy some sweets, yeah, which is really, really nice.
Buy some sweets?
Yeah.
That sounds like a reason to come alone, doesn't it? And if you didn't come here, what do you think you'd be doing?
I'd probably just be doing nothing. I'd be bored. I'd be extremely bored.
It's really good and it's a big place for people to make lots of friends. So if you wanted to make friends, then you could just come here every Monday or Wednesday.
It makes me happy when I go because it's a safe place and it's a fun place to go.
It stops people walking around the streets and everything.
The community centre also hosts a boxing club twice a week. 12-year-old Seren has ambitions to be a national champion.
Are there other places that you could go and box?
Steve's got another one in Staley Bridge, but he doesn't open on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And I love boxing and I go on the Tuesday and the Thursday here. So I would be really sad if this does shut down.
There's no shortage of fighting talk here.
We will be somewhere for you all to still keep your club open, I guarantee it. And you can hold me to that.
The passion and commitment of the volunteers will now be tested. But they remain determined to save this club, not just for the children, but also for their families and the whole community. John Maguire, BBC News, Gamesley in Derbyshire.
Get a real sense there of the impact that it has on people that use those facilities. Let's talk now to the founder of electronics retailer AO. That's John Roberts. He's with us. He's a trustee, former chairman of OnSide. That's a charity that provides young people in disadvantaged areas with youth centres around the UK. Good morning. Nice to see you.
Ben.
You get a sense of it there, don't you, in that report, about just what a difference these facilities make to people. And yet, the numbers suggest they are increasingly rare. What difference does it make?
Well, I think that, you know, as you've seen, the kids tell the story much better than I ever can. But I think that the way that I look at it is that what I've seen over the last 30 years of sort of campaigning for youth is that talent is evenly distributed and opportunity firmly is not. And it genuinely is inspiring when that talent is released. And it's also as heartbreaking when those opportunities are destroyed, as you just seen in the video there. And let's hope that opportunity isn't destroyed for those kids. But look, there's some harsh realities in this, OK? That we need the government to come to the party on this. And at the minute, they're not in any meaningful way. And so why is that? And it's harsh and brutal to say it, but it's the truth. And most people don't want to call it out, that politicians, they're in the business of power and votes. And kids don't vote. So politicians don't care about this as a topic.
Is it also because it's short-termist as well? You invest now, you don't see the benefits of this for decades, do you? By the time these young people have grown up and been able to put those talents that you talk about to good use, if they've not had a great start, it's years until you see the fruits of the labour.
Yeah, but I think that's the same as anything, right? And there's a lot of talk about long-term in government. What we're definitely getting is the invoices.
Right.
So when you think about whether it's knife crime, whether it's gang crime, you know, the kids are literally dying to belong to gangs. And so positivity rarely fills a void. And so if this youth club closes, what will those kids do? They'll be staring at screens in rooms, they'll be out on parks, they'll be creating mischief. That's not because they're bad kids. That's because as adults and as society, we've created a bad environment for them.
Well, let's pause for a moment there, John, because you've recently been back to Bolton Lads and Girls Club, which you've described as a blueprint for looking after kids who might need entertaining and, as you say, keeping off the streets and giving them something to do. And that's with your charity OnSide. Let's take a look now.
I'm John Roberts, founder of AO.com. Kids really are amazing. When we give them the opportunities, they prove to us every single time what they can do. And it's depressing because every kid should have this opportunity. It shouldn't just be for kids like mine, for people that can afford it. This should be available to everybody.
I used to be very quiet. I used to be in my own personal bubble. I never used to interact with people. It was bad for my mental health. I weren't really talking to people or interacting. But now I can be whoever I want to be. I feel really confident. It's just this place has had such a big impact on me. It just wows me how much it's had on me.
How often do you come to the club at night after school?
On Monday I come at 6 p.m. and I start doing gym 1 hour. Then after that basketball 1 hour. and on Thursday I come at 4 p.m. and finish at 9 p.m.
No wonder you're getting good, right? You're doing 5 hours of basketball at night.
Yeah.
You said that you were struggling in school and struggling with communication in school. And then why was the environment different in the youth zone and the friends that you've grown here?
It made me more confident. It's not like going outside, like playing like a park like that where it's dangerous. It's a safe environment, and yeah, where everyone is friendly and family like that, yeah.
How does it feel from your point of view to be a youth worker in an organisation like this and the impact that you have?
To be honest, it's a privilege to be able to have a position to give back to young people. I know what it's like being young and having somebody that was there for me to support me. So for me, it's a privilege to give them the same opportunity. So we really are those positive role models. We are those trusted adults. We are that person in between school and home that they can come and be themselves and they can disclose what they're going through and we can support them.
So you're now helping to lead youth work for other people, but what influence have the youth workers had on you?
They've had a big impact on me. So I've talked to Tia and she's helped me a lot. Like I spoke to a lot of the staff workers, they've gave me strategies to help and they do frequent meetings with me. It's just been amazing from there. Like.
As a juvenile, I made some pretty poor choices and I got in the wrong crowd and I was in trouble with the authorities. I came to the club, spent 3 years here, got my first taste of leadership, so I was made captain of one of the football teams.
What do you get out of supporting the club now and why do you do it?
I was blown away with the facility, keeps the young people off the streets. They've got the initiative where they've got the metal detector. The UK currently has got a massive knife crime problem. If a child that comes here that would carry a knife stops carrying a knife, then that's a win-win.
So Bolton Lads and Girls Club, for me, has an incredible impact here in the town, but actually it's much more fundamentally important because looking at it with a business brain, what it's done is prove the model. And with Onside coming out of Bolton Lads and Girls Club, we've proved that we can replicate this. What this needs is it needs fuel to supercharge it across the country so that we don't leave any kids behind.
Your own piece there, John. I mean, the figures are striking, aren't they? We talked about figures from the YMCA saying that council-run youth centres have fallen by 53% in England. And it feels almost like we need them more than ever.
Yeah, I mean, you know, to bring that to life, it's in round numbers, it's about 1,000 youth centres that have closed over the last 10 years. As importantly, about 5,000 youth worker roles have disappeared, and funding for youth clubs has gone from 1.5 billion down to 0.3 billion. And to give some context to that, right, so what you see here is, I think of it as the little E of education, okay? So it's the soft stuff. So you have parents and you have teachers in school. And as you hear there, the role that youth workers play in the middle of that, dealing with some super complex confidence issues and different issues that kids are dealing with. Over here, societally, we invest over 100 billion in the big E of education, schools. And we all think that makes sense. So 100 billion here, but kids spend 85% of their time outside the school gates. And over here, we spend 0.3 billion. I just can't believe that your viewers think that makes any sense to any sensible person.
You've been having a lot of discussions with councils and government, haven't you? What have they said? Is it that they don't see it as a priority or there are too many pressures on budgets? I mean, where is that money being reallocated to, or does it just not exist?
So I think it's slightly different. So if you look at central government, what do they say? They say all the right things. You meet them, right? They say all the right things. They're trained to say all the right things. They're not actually trained to do anything.
Right.
OK, so what happens? Actually, nothing happens. We've closed 1,000 youth centres. The government has said that they're going to give national access to every kid in the country by 2025, next year, access to these centres. If you gave me 100 billion today, I couldn't replace the youth centres by next year that we've closed over the last 10 years. So it's madness, but the statement comes out. From a local perspective, we tend to find that that's quite different. And so they've got very constrained budgets, and they are under huge budget pressure, and they have statutory responsibilities to do certain things, like looked after children, for example, and elderly care and things like that. And at the end of it, frankly, in the cuts, it's the kids that get cut. It's the easiest thing to cut every time. But then the invoice ends up in central government, in the police, or in the NHS, or in Department for Work and Pensions. The system's fundamentally broken because the government isn't very good at doing this. The YMCA themselves, the Scouts, Onside, there's a ton of amazing organisations that are brilliant at this. All we need to do is fuel them and give them the funding, and we're proposing on a match fund basis for them to just go and do the amazing work and let government help and then get out of the way.
For the last 10 years, I think you have donated your own income. You're a successful businessman. You've donated your own income to charities that support centres like this, that support children and young people. Why did you start doing that? What was your motivation behind that?
Well, so that's a personal decision that Sally and I make, and we want to level that playing field a little bit. We want to create some of those opportunities, and so we focused that into giving kids opportunities that otherwise wouldn't have them. But we're able to do that. I think that it's just as important that I can do that. Other people volunteer their time to be these trusted adults in these youth centres. That is just as important. And so the youth workers, you know, that's a vocational role, and you look at the passion that they put into it. And so the way that I think about it is that everyone can do something. And it's like society working properly together, where kids take inspirations from these adults. And in the mentoring programmes that they run, and there's loads of people from our business that do mentoring in the youth zones, what I always see is the mentor always gets at least as much as the mentee out of the process. And so it isn't about me, it isn't about what we give, it isn't about the volunteers. This is all about the kids, and it has to be focused on the kids and the outcomes for the kids and the societies that they operate in.
It really strikes me as well about what you've said this morning, that it's, you know, of course the focus is on some kids that really, really need help for whatever reason. But then there's a whole swathe of kids as well who it's just about tapping into their potential. They're doing okay, but it's about taking them from here to here, isn't it? And you must hear all of those stories of kids that thought this was their lot, and they've suddenly been given this opportunity to find a new path and do something amazing. I mean, we looked at some of those stories there.
But for me, when we talk about Bolton and the Onside network, Bolton was the catalyst for it, but there's now 14 across the country. That's the level of ambition that we should have for these kids, right? You want your kids to go to the best possible school. You want the best for your kids. And so one of the things that I get really excited about is the range of activities. The sports hall always gets the focus, right? Yep. But there's cooking. You saw, I mean, it looked like there's a bit of sugar going into that cooking.
That's allowed.
But there's cooking, there's boxing, there's climbing walls. They're learning languages. The lad playing basketball there came to England from Ethiopia, not speaking a word of English. And through making friends in the youth zone and doing English classes in the youth zone, he started to do a lot better at school. There's music, there's dance, there's yoga. You saw the girl in the gym. The range of activities, we don't know what's going to fire their imagination. So let's let them try everything and let's see where they go. Let's not be prescriptive about it.
And people believe in this, don't they? People are passionate about it. The Glossop Youth Centre that we've been talking about has seen their funding double. It was £2,000. It's now £4,000.
Fantastic.
You must feel that when you talk to people, when you're out visiting places like this, there is a real passion to try and help.
At every level. I mean, genuinely, at every level on the estates. and in the wider philanthropic community. There's a great example in COVID, the power of match funding. So in COVID, the government said that they would put, I think it was about 80 to 100 million, something like that, if the philanthropic community came in and matched it, to be deployed in 6 months. They did it, and within a few weeks, the philanthropic community came in and put about 200 million in, but it was capped at 80. So there was about 200 million left on the table that didn't get deployed, and then what was left took 18 months to deploy rather than the 6 months. There is a huge appetite in the country to help at all the levels, but match funding unlocks it. And government holds an amazing golden key, but what we've got to make sure is that this is not party political. This has got to be absolutely cross-party. And what I see so often is it is amazing what can be achieved when no one cares who takes the credit. And the kids can't be a political football. They've all got to get over themselves and say, is this just the right thing to do? Should we just do this? And when they're knocking on doors this year, we need your viewers to ask them the questions of, what are you doing for our kids?
Judging by the number of emails and messages we've had already about it this morning, I'm sure we will talk again about this because it's something that loads of people are really passionate about. But John, thank you.
Thank
really
you.
Good to see you. Thanks for coming in and showing us that film as well. Thank you.
It's 8:30.